Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swing and a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
Hi, everyone, and welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the medium-large sports network. My name is Matthew Moreno. I'm filling in tonight for Jeff Spiegel, hosting, as you can see, and joining me, our managing editor, Blake Williams, who's filling in for Anthony Witrato. So I know it's not the usual Tuesday night show that you guys are expecting. You're stuck with Blake and I. And Blake, we were just kind of talking for this. Coming into it, I thought it had kind of been a while since you and I had done a show, just the two of us, but I think we realized we might have been on maybe a couple of weeks ago at this point. I know it all got to be a little bit of a whirlwind with everything going on.
Yeah, it's you can tell it's close to spring training when the B squad is out there instead of the A squad for one of the games. So here we are.
Yeah, yes. We want to thank everybody for joining us tonight on live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you're listening after the fact via podcast, we appreciate that as well. If you are on YouTube, please be sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, all that good stuff. I did see some early comments asking about Daniel. He is at the Laker Clipper game tonight at Intuit Dome. It's been a busy time and an exciting time for Daniel and all of us, really, with medium large because of Lakers Nation being part of our network and the Luka Doncic trade, I'm sure, as you are all aware of. So yeah, Daniel's he's a little bit busy now, and hopefully maybe some good Dodgers front office magic has rubbed off over there on the Lakers, and they can kind of start trending upwards. I know Boston Blake will hate to see that happening, but he'll have to just kind of smile and grind his teeth through it for the betterment of our business.
I think I'm actually a Clippers fan tonight.
Oh, Clipper fan. Okay, Clipper Blake tonight. All right. Well, we'll have to see. I know that game either just started or is about to start, so maybe we'll get some scoring updates from people, but we'll be off before. I'll be sure to have the show over, Blake, before the fourth quarter. That way you could watch the Lakers and your Clippers kind of go at it. Hopefully it'll be an entertaining game. Our plan for tonight is obviously we're going to touch on the Ryan Brasier trade. It's sort of the big news that has kind of happened about an hour before we started this live stream with you guys. There's also some Dodgers coaching staff news, which it's not necessarily changes, if you will, but some additional duties and responsibilities for some of the members of that. And then we're going to discuss spring training. It's right around the corner. A lot of players are already out there. And Blake and I want to make sure that we set aside a ton of time to answer as many questions as you guys have as possible. So we're a little bit lighter on kind of the news and update stuff tonight. And then hopefully you guys have a ton of good questions. So be sure to save those for the end. But as a reminder, if you are on YouTube, if you want us to address a specific topic, or if you have a question, super chat is the way to go. We'll stop what we're doing and we'll get to that. But without those so far, let's start, like I said, with Ryan Brasier getting traded to the Cubs. That deal is now official. It was reported by Jeff Passan initially, and the Dodgers announced it maybe 15, 20 minutes ago. It's Ryan Brasier. Like, stay with me on this one. Ryan Brasier and Cash are going to the Cubs. What the Dodgers are going to receive are a player to be named later or cash considerations. And so my question to you is, we don't have a dollar amount that they're sending. It's usually not disclosed, but they are sending some money to the Cubs. If the Dodgers decide to pass on a prospect or a player as the player to be named later, is it the same money coming back to them? Do you think they're going to say, hey, we sent you, X million or whatever the case may be, send that right back to us?
Maybe, but as I was thinking about it, it's like we were actually kind of loading into the stream. I figured maybe it's like the Dodgers are eating some of the salary from Brasier's contract, so the Cubs don't have to pay that. And then the Cubs might send back actual cash that the Dodgers can pocket or hold or whatever that isn't necessarily connected to the payroll aspect of it. So they never disclose any of that, and we might hear a report about it. We might not, because it's pretty minor, but it's probably, I'm guessing, what they're going with there. I'm sure they'll end up getting some minor league prospect back, and cash is just kind of the fallback in the deal. But usually when those things happen, the Cubs give the Dodgers a list of players they can pick from, and then the Dodgers pick whoever they want down the line, or they have an agreed upon player already, and it's just waiting. And they'll end up making that trade when they can. Like if it was just a drafted prospect, you can only trade them a certain amount of time later after they were drafted. So that's kind of the thing, how they get around it. They say a player to be named later.
Yeah, Nomo Splitter says, if you give me $1, I give you $1 back. It's a fair trade. That is what I was going to bring up. Andrew Friedman, I forgot at what point it was asked. It might have been before the start of the 2024 season, maybe longer ago. It's escaping me right now, but he was asked kind of how these cash considerations work in trades, and he said it could literally be $1, it could be $100, it could be $1,000. Like it really varies. And so, yeah, to your point, I do agree. The likelihood is the Dodgers are setting some money to cover Ryan Brazier's salary. $4.5 million this year. It's the final year of a 2-year contract that he signed with the Dodgers, although it did have some performance bonuses. So I think the final total could end up being a little bit more. And then, yeah, when, we'll see, in a couple months, maybe around the middle of the season, typically I feel like is when those deadlines are sort of set to kind of decide on, okay, are you taking, which prospect are you taking now, or are you going to take the cash? With Brasier specifically, and I want to give a shout out to Scott. I know you guys were on last Thursday, and he mentioned he was really on the Cubs. I think he had heard some early rumblings that the Cubs could be interested in Brasier, and so here we are, a few days later with that happening. Forgive me if you guys kind of dove into this. Jeff and I were kicking it around a little bit on Sunday, and let me also stop really quick and say I will give credit to the Cubs because I know that. I was skeptical. They've been their owner, Tom Ricketts, came out and said they didn't have money to do this kind of thing. And you and I were talking. Well, he said they were looking to break even, not Brasier specifically. And you and I were talking over the last couple of days when we were planning out written content. And you said, we have an article ready for when Brazier's traded. And I joked with you, like, I don't think he's going to get traded. I don't see these teams spending. So I will tip my hat to the Cubs for picking up some of that $4.5 million because obviously the Dodgers are sending some cash, but. From the player perspective, Jeff and I discussed this. And I know Brandon Gomes said the Dodgers would have to open up a roster move at some point anyway, but were you surprised that they DFA'd somebody and they didn't maybe try to stretch the Kirby Yates signing into the start of spring training to then delay the clock and see, hopefully relievers stay healthy during the spring, but if not, then you still have Brasier around?
Yeah, at first I was pretty surprised by it, but as I kind of talked through it, I changed a bit of my mind to like, how many times have we seen the Dodgers throughout the season? If they need a reliever, they just go pick up someone from the waiver wire and they end up being at least a contributor. Like they probably felt we could get a prospect or something back for him right now, save money. And if we need to down the line, we'll find someone who might not be as good as Brasier, but maybe will be at least 50% comparable. And that'll get us through the regular season. And then we can kind of go from there because we know the Dodgers are building their roster for October. They don't really care about the regular season. And Brasier probably wasn't going to be on the postseason roster if everyone was healthy. Probably wasn't going to make it to that point. And it just seemed like a move where they probably felt like they could get an asset back and save some money and find his replacement somewhere else if they need to.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, look, Brasier he had his moments with the Dodgers. There were times where he struggled, and no relief pitcher is perfect. But I think, fair to say that in some sense, and I don't want to compare the guys because I don't think that it was like an apples to apples thing, but the Dodgers theoretically upgraded with Kirby Yates basically taking Brazier's spot in the bullpen.
Theoretically, or for sure? I think
I was trying to be nice.
I would say they for sure upgraded unless something goes crazy wrong. I mean, they're both the same age, so you can't project like one of them's going to decline really quickly or something. And Kirby Yates has been an elite reliever. Brasier has been good and bad at times. Like before the Dodgers got him, he was DFA'd by the Red Sox for being a 5 ERA guy. So he was really good for the Dodgers. It's tough to see him leave because he was good and he was a valuable member of the bullpen for about a year and a half. But also at the same time, he was kind of replaceable to this team at this point, and they did upgrade.
Yeah, now we're going to see how it plays out. Brasier there's potentially a revenge series factor here with the Dodgers and Cubs playing in Tokyo to begin the season. I'm assuming Brasier will be part of their bullpen, obviously, and maybe he comes in to face the top of the lineup in a high leverage situation. And everybody, if he succeeds, then we're going to get a bunch of complaints that the Dodgers lost the trade, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, it always kind of works out that way. I think right after the Michael Busch trade, he went and hit like 3 homers against the Dodgers, and that caused some problems there. But I think the Dodgers did pretty well in that trade, and usually they don't lose a trade.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that Michael Busch, credit to him for putting that together against the Dodgers early last year. That definitely was interesting times for our Twitter account when we were, going, those games were happening. I remember a lot of people were upset over that. So if you missed it, Ryan Brasier was officially traded to the Cubs. Brasier and cash go to Chicago. The Dodgers will receive a player to be named later or cash considerations from the Cubs. Our next bit of news for today is the Dodgers coaching staff. So obviously the big change happened early in the offseason with Clayton McCullough being hired by the Miami Marlins as their new manager. Obviously created an opening for the Dodgers at first base. They filled it pretty easily by looking internally. Chris Woodward had been back with the organization over the past year plus in kind of a special advisor role. He, of course, was their former third base coach, and he is now going to coach first base. So that was kind of set. So there really wasn't anything necessarily new per se with the coaching staff, but there still were some changes. And Blake, do you happen to have those pulled up in front of you?
I do. So
Okay,
Dino Ebel, who has been the infielders coach, will now be coaching outfielders. That was Clayton McCullough's role. And then they're going to have Woodward coach the infielders now, replacing Ebel there. And they also promoted, I guess, Brandon McDaniel, who is the vice president of player performance. He's now on their coaching staff as the integration coach, which no idea what that means, but he gets to be in the dugout now instead of not in the dugout. So nice new role for him. And yeah, those were the three major changes they made there. Everything else is pretty much the same, with Danny Lehman as the bench coach, Bob Guerin as the field coach, Mark Pryor, the pitching coach, Connor McGinnis, the assistant pitching coach, Robert Van Scoyoc and Aaron Bates as the hitting coaches, and Josh Bard in the bullpen.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. That was the first thought I had with Brandon McDaniel's promotion, if you will. The Dodgers, give them credit. They excel at creating various job titles. Like when Bob Guerin became the major league field coordinator, I remember thinking what is this? This isn't something that's really prominent throughout the sport. And I think the same thing with now Brandon McDaniel's title. I did think the dugout aspect as well, but then I also felt, I mean, look, I guess it's when we've seen players get injured, like I feel like McDaniel or Thomas Albert are in the dugout and or get out there pretty quickly. And it's a decent walk from the clubhouse, so I sort of feel like they're hanging around anyway. So I don't know. It will be interesting to see. I do plan when we're out at spring training later this month. If nobody has asked before then, which they might, I do hopefully want to get some clarity either from Dave Roberts or Andrew Friedman, like just kind of what exactly this change entails, and if maybe the dugout component is part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the dugout component would be the biggest part of it, because that is being part of the coaching staff. You get to be in there, whereas other people can't be in there. So I don't know. We'll have to get that clarification and see what it is and how the Dodgers are actually managing that. Maybe they felt like he was going to go somewhere else if they didn't promote him, so they ended up doing that, because that is something teams end up doing. Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting new role.
Yeah, and good point about the possibly that could be a way how the Dodgers maybe retained McDaniel instead of another team potentially pulling him away. The other wrinkles to this, obviously, you mentioned Dino Ebel working with outfielders, Chris Woodward working with infielders. I know Mookie Betts at Dodger Fest told us that him and Woody, as he's known throughout the organization, have been working tirelessly and pretty frequently throughout the offseason at hitting grounders and just stuff like that. Obviously, getting Mookie comfortable at shortstop. The good news here is that Woodward already has a relationship with a lot of these players from the last time he was around. And Dino Ebel, I think, as much as maybe he wasn't like as hands-on, like Clayton McCullough did work with the outfielders, I do think, you and I would see before games, Dino would communicate with the outfielders to some degree, maybe not as much as he will now, but that's not going to be anything necessarily completely foreign to him. So the big takeaway, I think, with all of this is it's just a lot of continuity still on the Dodgers staff, and I think that brings tremendous value.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it all starts at the top with Dave Roberts, of course, and then I'm sure Bob Guerin has played a big role in that as well, and now Danny Lehman being a huge part of that. And they haven't changed their pitching coaches and hitting coaches in quite a long time, unless someone ends up leaving. Like, anyone on their staff is pretty safe usually, so it's definitely beneficial for the players and the organization as a whole to not have to make changes consistently like some other organizations do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if over the last several years, Josh Bard, the bullpen coach, he left, but then came back. George Lombard left. He's obviously still, is he Tigers, I think, right? Is he still there?
I forget where he is now. I think he was fired from the Tigers, and they hired
Oh,
AJ
that's right.
Hinch.
That's right. I forgot. Yeah, I forgot that. Yeah. Okay, so Lombard left. He's still, working his way through with other teams. Woodward became the Rangers manager, is now back with the organization. So, Van Scoyoc has been around, as you mentioned. Aaron Bates has been around. Mark Pryor, all these guys. So yeah, even when there has been some change, like I guess I named Lombard and Woodward, and one of those two is back with the organization. So really, no change within the Dodgers coaching staff. And I think, like I said, there is value.
Lombard is the Tigers bench coach now.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, that's right. I thought that's what he took, because he went from was he the first base coach with the Dodgers or third base?
Yeah.
Is it
First base?
First base. So yeah, I remember thinking like it was a promotion in that sense. But then you had me like, I wasn't sure if maybe he got the manager.
I think he interviewed for a few jobs, and the Dodgers have had a lot of people interviewing for manager jobs.
That's true. Yeah, I look, Clayton McCullough's the kind of the poster child for that. I felt like every offseason the past few years he was interviewing. He was maybe a finalist and then just not getting the position until now. He landed with the Marlins, which congratulations to him on the career advancement. I know he wanted to become a manager, but also, unfortunately, it's the Marlins. And if you look at their offseason, it speaks for itself.
Yeah, unfortunately, when people take those kind of lesser jobs like that, they end up back with their former organization or somewhere else within a few years. So hopefully it all works out for Clayton, but that team does not have much talent. And usually that means the manager ends up getting blamed instead of the general manager who built the team. So might see Clayton back at some point.
Yeah, sometimes it's both. Real quick before we continue, Blake, I have an unfortunate update. The Lakers are winning 33-25 over your Clippers at a timeout here in the first quarter.
It's a good thing I'm a Celtics fan then.
There we go. Boston Blake is back on the show. We have our first super chat of the night, David, with the Lakers logo, so perfectly timed. He says, love you guys. David, thank you. We know you're regular in here. I'm seeing a lot of others. Laura, Hawaiian Kira, Nomo, Eden, bunch more that I'm sure I'm missing. I'm trying to scroll here. Kenny, BC. So yeah, thank you guys for always supporting us. And David, I know I've given you a hard time over the food pictures that you send us, always joking about you having money in there and asking where it's going to go. David's a man of his word. He said tonight the 20 was coming to us, and here it is. So David, we appreciate you. Whether or not you were doing the super chat, of course, we are grateful to have everybody in here with us. Yeah, Blake. So
we have some Clippers fans in here. It's not all Lakers fans, although it's probably the majority Lakers fans.
Yes, it is.
Being called out for Boston stuff, but
yes, you have upset the show tonight with your Boston propaganda once again.
I keep repeating I don't actually watch basketball, and I just do it to troll a bit here. I don't really care. The Lakers are fine, whatever. So yeah.
All right, let's move on to our next topic. I did see some comments discussing, referencing spring training and being excited for it. So we're less than a week from tonight, February 4th, if you're watching this live with us. Dodgers would have been hours removed from their pitchers and catchers holding their first official workout of spring training. So their report date is February 10th. There already are several players there, Blake. I know when you were at Chris Taylor's Polar Plunge event, he alluded to the fact that he was, of course, grateful that several of his teammates showed up, one, but two, especially with the fact that a lot of them were then planning to leave directly to Camelback Ranch from, it was Manhattan Beach, right?
Yeah.
Okay, directly from Manhattan Beach. And so we have seen, if you've been on Twitter, I'm sure you've seen several Japanese and international outlets sharing either videos and or pictures of Shohei Ohtani being out there, Bobby Miller, Blake Snell. This is something that I think has become commonplace of players showing up early. I'm sure, like I said, February 10th is a report date for pitchers and catchers. You'll have the majority of position players there as well, getting ready for their workouts to start. Is it, I guess, maybe the sort of nice thing here is, I think for me, seeing somebody like Blake Snell, who actually, I kind of got the sense at Dodger Fest that he had come from Camelback Ranch, that he had already been out there, came into LA for the community tour week, Dodger Fest, and then was heading back out. So he's been out there, I think it seems, for a while. But to see these new guys, because that's something, if you want to expand this topic a little bit, we've discussed, there's something to, yes, keeping the Teoscar Hernandez, the Blake Treinen, the players who got you there, but also infusing it with new blood and players who have not won a World Series. And so to see Blake Snell sort of leading by example already in a new team, I think is pretty impressive.
I think part of it also might be last year he didn't report to spring training until late, and
Sure.
he started out very poorly and dealt with some injuries because of it. He basically was going through spring training in the early parts of the season. So now he signed early. He's getting a head start on spring training. Won't have to deal with that. But also, yeah, I think he does really want to win a World Series. That's why he's with the Dodgers. He's lost to them in the playoffs a few times now. So yeah, he wants to get out there, help them win. And he said he was going to help mentor Bobby Miller, who's also out there now. So yeah, it's a impressive thing for the Dodgers to have all these guys reporting already since it is so early. And it speaks volumes to how much this team does want to win again and repeat, because it seems like a lot of times teams win and then they kind of fall off the next year. Dodgers are trying to avoid that.
Yeah, definitely. And I apologize. I'm sure I might be forgetting some of the players who might be out there. But yes, it's a pretty, usually that stuff I think starts happening like a few days before the report date, so that this has been kind of a week plus of players. And actually even Hassan Kim, when he was asked about meeting some of his new teammates, he had also been at Camelback Ranch. I think he flew there from directly from Korea, right before he
Yeah.
came to LA. So he'd been out there as well last month. And he mentioned Andy Pajes, the captain Austin Barnes, Blake Snell, and there were a few others that he mentioned had already kind of been in and out of there. I think maybe James Outman, but I could be mistaken. So yeah, I mean it's encouraging and it's exciting. I think it's, obviously for us covering the team, we know that when the community tour happens and then Dodger Fest, that the off season has ended, if you will, at that point, because then spring training started. I know, you and I have kind of joked about like it didn't necessarily feel like an off season this year, but hey, it could be worse. The Dodgers could have been eliminated in the NLDS, and we had a bunch of time to fill, and there were a lot of exciting times. I think, as much as it kept you and I busy.
Yeah, I kept saying like the last few years the season ends and then there's like a month of just nothing. This time it ended, and then the next day they were players hitting free agency, players getting tendered contracts, just a ton of stuff. So never really got a huge break there. But yeah, at least it was an exciting off season. They didn't just sit there and do nothing like most other teams. So they kept us busy.
Yeah. All right. So let's, like I said, Blake and I wanted to be sure we had a lot of time to answer as many of your questions as possible, because we do sense that there is a lot of excitement with spring training around the corner. So just start throwing those in the chat with the word question in all caps. That way it's easier for us to pick it out. And as we wait for those, Blake, I want to hear from you of covering the Polar Plunge event on Sunday morning. I know it was your second year in a row doing it.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people who follow me on Twitter or were in the last show know I wore shoes to that, and it is an event at the beach. So my shoes got filled with sand and water. I went in the water to get some photos and content and stuff, video. So I got pretty soaked from like my knees down. So for anyone who wanted me to go in the water, I kind of did partly. But it was a cool event. It's a lot of the players show up and jump into the water when it's like less than 60 degrees in there. And yeah, they raise money for the Friendship Foundation and this year also the LA Fire Department Foundation. And yeah, like I said, a lot of players were there. We have the video up. So if you haven't seen that, go watch it because it's pretty funny. Got some reactions right as players were walking out of the water. Got one from Tommy Edman and Chris Taylor a little bit after they went in. So it's always a good time, funny to watch. And it's really great seeing all the guys out there and supporting Chris Taylor and the charities.
Yeah. And I don't know if maybe I just didn't realize it in watching the videos that we had from it last season, but were the fans and players like intermingled when they ran into the ocean, or were they kept separate?
They're intermingled for the people who sign up for the event. They get like
Okay.
a wristband and get to go in with the players and stuff like that. And then when they're coming out, they get a medal and a towel from the event.
Yeah.
So yeah, last year it was like I'd say less organized for the first time, and they didn't have like a check-in that they had this year where they really kept people separated unless you were part of the event. So yeah, they did let people go in with the players.
Yeah. Well, that's a cool event then for fans. I know that the Taylors, put out some information that they were inviting fans to participate. So it's nice to see that, hey, this is something, keep in mind for maybe next year. This, if you want to sort of get a chance to quickly meet some of these guys and also go into the ocean with them. That's the way to do it. Blake, this Hawaiian Curious wants to know. I know you got a towel last year. Did you get one this time?
I did not, because they ran out and I was doing other stuff before I got a chance to ask, but they did give me a medal. So I kind of earned it for going in a bit.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So hopefully your shoes have recut. Is there an update on the shoes? Are they okay? Did you salvage them?
They're just sitting outside, so I haven't really checked on them. But
Okay.
hopefully I can.
Okay, we'll get an update. Let's see if you're on Thursday, then maybe we'll get an update from Blake on how his shoes are doing. All right, we got a lot of good questions in here already, so let's start answering them. Cole wants to know, where do players stay while at spring training? It's a mix. Some of them own property out there, some of them rent property. But yeah, I think maybe, I don't know how many would do a hotel, because around Camelback there aren't necessarily a ton. You get apartments. Maybe some guys I know live together. They're roommates for a little bit. So it's sort of all over the map. Blake, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add.
Usually they stay in Arizona or Florida.
Okay, there we go. Yes, thank you. That's the detailed answer that they were asking for. Kevin wants to know, will Shohei be a starter in October?
Yeah, probably, if he stays healthy, for sure. But we'll see. We know the Dodgers and their injury problems with starting pitchers, and they're going to attempt to make him a starter and try and keep him healthy. That's why they're delaying his season until, I think Dave Roberts said, around May. So hopefully.
Yep. Cheesecake wants to know if Dodger Blue will be at spring training and what dates. We are going to be there. I think we're going to do it a little bit differently this year, where we kind of break up and go send kind of two separate groups, if you will. We don't necessarily have the full dates set just yet, but we will be doing it. Yes, we will be out at spring training. Let's see.
I think Scott's been saying if he goes out there, he wants to meet with some fans and try and get something going. So we'll see about that.
Yeah, it'll be what, your second time in Arizona? Third time?
Third
time in Arizona. Spring training related. Nomo Splitter wants to know, will Kim's performance impact whether he gets a regular season roster spot? This is a good question. Like, this is something that I think I've have sort of kicked around. Jeff is of the mind that he thinks the Dodgers will easily option Kim to Oklahoma City. I'm not as certain. So do you think, I think that they are going to give him every chance to win the kind of the quote unquote starting job. I think because he may struggle against some left-handed pitching, that it will be somewhat of a platoon. But how do you see this going?
I think there's a lot of factors in here. It's probably going to depend on the health of the roster at the time coming out of spring training. It might depend on if they re-sign Kike or not, which seems like it's going to happen. But it might ultimately end up like how he looks. If he's just getting fastballs blown by him consistently, I think they're probably going to be more likely to option him than maybe if he's just hitting like 116 or something in spring training, but he's making contact and has some decent hard hit rates or underlying metrics that are encouraging. So it's probably going to be about how he looks more than like the stats or anything that he puts up. Because a lot of times in spring training, players are just working on things and it's less about performance and more about just getting right. So I think I would bet on him being on the roster, but if for some reason everyone's healthy and it comes down to like Pages or Kim for your last spot, because those are the two guys with options, then I think it might come down to performance there. And I'd probably bet on Pages to get the nod just because he has the experience and he could be like somewhat of a platoon option. If you want to move in Tommy Edman and play Pages at center field, he could even end up being the starter there. So yes and no, it really depends how things shape out. It's so early right now in spring training. It's hard to answer these things until we have a better idea.
Yeah. Now with the here, Stockton, he has a super chat updated percent of signing Kike. So when you're mentioning a potential final roster spot coming down between Pages and Kim, is that with the assumption that Kike is back?
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, what percent? I know you sort of joked because Brandon Gomes, well, ironically, Andrew Friedman was on the main stage, said the doors never closed to Kike Hernandez. Brandon Gomes then came to speak with us, the media at Dodger Fest, and basically repeated that almost verbatim, which was kind of funny because I know there are already a lot of jokes of Gomes sounding a lot like Friedman anyway. So what percent are you putting that Kike is back with the Dodgers?
I'd probably put it at like 95% at this
wow.
point.
Okay.
I would be very surprised if he's not back based on their comments. When we were kind of talking to Gomes after the Kirby Yates press conference, he somewhat alluded to them having some other things lined up when pitchers and catchers report. And like he wouldn't really say names because he can't since they're free agents. But yeah, I would be pretty shocked if he's not back.
Yeah, Eden's asking, Eden, I see you saying that you're still new. What is this? I'm not 100% sure what that is in reference to, but if you want to clarify, we could try to answer that for you. Let's get to another super chat we had. This one's from Steven. He says, with CT3 just months away from reaching his 10-year pension mark, do you think the Dodgers would designate him for assignment before then? I've seen this going around. I feel like people are sort of confusing two things because the Chris Taylor, I'm assuming he's also, I would imagine he's close to the 10-5 rights.
That would be the
Right.
same. Like once he reaches the 10 years in Major League Baseball, he would have the 10-5 rights.
Right. But theoretically, the Dodgers, like they could trade him before the 10-5 rights kick in because what the 10-5 are 10 years in the majors with the last 5, the most recent 5 on one team. And that basically gives you a full no trade clause. The Dodgers could trade Chris Taylor before the 10-5 point of his service time. He would still then reach like a 10-year pension with the new team, assuming he's sticking in the majors. Like that's what I mean by they're two separate.
Yeah.
So, okay. So to Steven's point, I mean, I don't think the Dodgers are going to DFA Chris Taylor, period. I don't think the pension is really factoring in here at all.
I don't think they're going to move him because they like him, but I also think that does play a factor into their decisions because if you're trying to convince free agents to come sign with you and you want to be the destination spot, like what better way to say, even if you struggle, like we're going to stick with you till you get your 10 years in the major leagues. Like they did it with David Price. He got his with the Dodgers. And I think there's a few other players in the last few years. Jason Hayward, I think, got his with the Dodgers. So like it is a good negotiating tactic to make players like favorable toward your team, and doing stuff like that does play a role in it. I don't think that's the main reason they're doing it. I think they just really like Chris Taylor and are hoping he can kind of get back on track, and they're not necessarily willing to eat 20 million just for him to go away. So I think it's like a lesser idea in there that they're waiting for him to get to 10 years, but I know there's a lot of talk about him being traded after getting that 10 years, and that's not going to happen because Chris Taylor will have the no trade clause.
Yeah. I agree with you. I guess I'm looking at it from. I think the Dodgers could still look. Chris Taylor has struggled for multiple seasons, and they have stuck with him. So I think if they were to trade him in April, early May, whatever, before the 10-5 kicks in, I'm not 100% sure on that date. Like I don't know if it's going to necessarily be like a black mark on the organization because again, like they're sending him to another team where unless that team decides to DFA Trailer, which I don't necessarily anticipate, he would still accrue service time and reach the 10-year pension. He just wouldn't be a 10-5 player, which the biggest benefit of that is you get a full no trade clause. You can still, so that's why I just want to make sure for Stephen, for your question, and just for people joining us, that there is a little bit of clarity and differentiating between the two.
I also think if they were going to DFA him, it would have happened already. I think they would have wanted to give him a chance to like latch on somewhere else, do it early in the offseason so we can look around, weigh options. Like it hasn't happened. He's going to be on the opening day roster, and I think people need to kind of just start accepting that at this point.
Yeah, probably. Pixie Picker says, when will we have a resolution on Vesia? So Vesia and the Dodgers did avoid arbitration on was it a 1 year with an option is what it ended up being. So
Yeah.
1 year with an option, which is how Andrew Friedman typically does it. If they don't agree to a contract with a player who's eligible for arbitration by the deadline, they either end up going to arbitration hearing, which are few and far between. The last ones were with Jock Peterson and Pedro Baez several years back. And one way that they're willing to sort of avoid the arbitration hearing, if, like I said, if missing the deadline, is by coming to terms on these multi-year deals. So Vesia he has his contract. He was asked about arbitration at Dodger Fest. He said it's, kind of a weird thing, which we have heard from several players discussing, because, you go in and the team is arguing why they don't believe you're worth, X amount that you filed for and why you should be paid less. And Vesia did say that he knows that the Dodgers value him and how they value him type thing. So he didn't necessarily seem to have any hard feelings, but this is resolved, fortunately, before going to a hearing.
Yeah, I think they settled at 2.35 million, if I'm remembering correctly, and I believe Vesia asked for 2.5 million, and the Dodgers were at 2 million or something like that. So they settled pretty much right in the middle there, and both sides are going to be happy with that.
Yeah, and we have another update. Alex Renteria says Lakers 57, Clippers 36. Blake is firmly planted his flag back in Boston, so he's this. I guess this would still upset you though that your hated rival Lakers are winning. So it's a lose night for Blake, no matter which side of the coin he lands on.
I mean, I guess hopefully Austin Reeves having a great game out there. Big Austin Reeves guy.
There we go. All right. Let's see what other questions we have here. Cordenez says, out of all of our starters, which one do you think wins a Cy Young award first?
That's a really good question. I'm going to go with Blake Snell just because I think he's the best one on the staff right now. But my fallback would probably be Yamamoto just because he is the youngest and probably has the most upside and he'll be around for a while. So like if Blake Snell doesn't win one in the next 2 years, then it's probably going to be Yamamoto becoming the favorite by then. And maybe even Roki Sasaki is the third option there. So I think Snell, I'd bet on it this year.
I'm going to say Glass now. I think he could be the first there.
Staying healthy for a full year?
A little bit of an ups. Maybe he deals with the sore elbow for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but then he's healthy enough for the season. And Blake, you giving Austin Reeves a shout out, excited. Eden, as you can see if you're watching, she has Will Smith and Austin Reeves in her avatar. Here's a good question here from, I know we've struggled pronouncing this, Dovey Andisetovia. I apologize for butchering that, but he says, I'm kind of curious on where the 40-man roster is at right now, assuming they signed Kershaw and Kike Hernandez. What needs to open up on the 40-man for that to happen? So the Dodgers are, go ahead, Blake, you could explain it.
Yeah, they have a lot of injured players right now that are going to end up on the 60-day IL when pitchers and catchers can report on February 10th. So when that happens, you're going to see guys like Gavin Stone, Emmett Sheehan, probably a few other, River Ryan. I think there's
Gratterall.
2 or 3 other guys. Yeah, Gratterall. They have a lot. So once those guys go on the 60-day IL, that opens up 40-man roster spaces. Then they can sign Kershaw, put him on the 60-day IL to open up another, and then they'll sign probably Kike and sure a few other guys. Roki Sasaki will have a spot there, so they'll probably leave it at 39 for spring training, but they might even leave it open until they find some relievers who they might like that get designated for assignment or some other position players that they can option to the minors. So we're going to see a lot of movement on the 40-man roster over the next month or so.
Yeah, and W, what I was going to say is the 40-man is not what you need to really worry about because of all the reasons Blake outlined. It's actually pretty smooth and pretty straightforward for how the Dodgers, I mean, they could open up, was like you just named 6 or 7 guys. So the 40-man can be freed up pretty easily. As GI comments here, the bigger problem is a 26-man roster, which, yes, that's where it gets a little bit of a crunch down, if you will. We were just discussing Hassan Kim, Andy Baez, that type of thing. Like in an ideal world, maybe the Dodgers have space for both of them. They're not necessarily having to really worry or think things through on who they should keep up and or send to the minors. And what will also become potentially somewhat of an issue is the Dodgers will be able to open up 40-man spots pretty easily. It'll be similar to last season where there comes a time when these guys are ready to come off the 60-day IL and you need spots on your 40-man and the active roster. And that leads to Blake's Big Maple getting traded, even though he was the most durable starter on the team. So that's where it could get interesting. And in the bullpen specifically, also this year, Ryan Brasier getting DFA'd and now, as we mentioned earlier to begin this show, traded to the Cubs. That in large part was due to the depth that the Dodgers have and the lack of relievers who have minor league options. I know Vesia can be optioned. He might be the only one in the kind of projected opening day bullpen that can be sent down.
That sounds right. I mean, probably, yeah.
Because Bandit can't, because he's been DFA'd.
Bandit cannot.
and it's all veterans after that. Gratterall's hurt.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone else.
Yeah. So that's where things could get really interesting. And I see Dovey saying thank you, and just Dovey is fine. Dovey, we appreciate that. I'll let Jeff know. That makes it a little bit easier on us. And I do apologize for stumbling through it to begin with. Were you looking something out? Did you have something for us?
I was looking if Kopech had an option. It wouldn't happen, but he might have one left or two. Not seeing that on. I thought Fangraphs had it on there.
Yeah, I thought that they do at the top also. He
I
must
don't
not have.
think
He
they-
must not have one then. Would be my
Yeah.
guess. I don't remember hearing that he did. I remember thinking that it was just Vesia.
Yeah, he came up pretty early though. I think he came up when he was 22. So he might or might not have one, but either way, he won't get optioned.
Yeah. Speaking of kind of injured list stuff, Tracy wants to know, what is the limit for the different IR categories? So I'm assuming kind of the minimum time they need to be on the injured list.
Or is it limit like how many people you can actually put on it? Because fantasy baseball
we can answer
have those
both.
limits. So yeah, there is no limit for the major league level. It's like as many people as you want to pay and have around, you can have them on there. The limit for actually putting them on the IL would be 7 days for a concussion, 10 days for a position player for any other injury, 15 days for a pitcher, and then 60 days if they're going to be out a while. And the 60-day also opens up a 40-man roster spot, so you could add someone else to your roster.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else we have here. Dong wants to know status update on MLB The Show Game Challenge. I think this is Scott's involved in this, right?
I think it's related to me and Scott. So we're not sure yet. We'll probably do it when the new game comes out, I guess. Just makes the most sense instead of playing the old one. I'm sure you guys all want to see the new Dodgers. And we're also trying, can't make any promises here, but we're trying to get Blake Snell to do an interview while playing Scott in the show. So we'll see how that goes. Asked him about it. He said he isn't like set up at his house yet, so he can't do it yet. But hopefully sometime in the near future we can make that happen.
I might have to put my foot down on that one. Don't go distracting Blake Snell. He doesn't need to be playing video games. He needs to be throwing bullpens every single day, laser focus. There's a World Series to win here, Blake.
Snell's a big MLB The Show and streamer, so we'll see.
Yeah. Hopefully that works out. Obviously, we're mindful too if players have time or not. So we'll see how that goes. Another one from Cordonez. What are your top 3 new players you guys are excited to see this year?
Roki Sasaki, probably the main one, I think, just because we haven't really seen him at the major league level or against major league competition. He's only played in the World Baseball Classic against them. I think Conforto probably in the top 3 for me because I think he's going to have like a bounce back kind of breakout year. And Tanner Scott, just because like the Dodgers haven't had a reliever that dominant in quite some time, especially a lefty reliever that dominant. So I think he'll be fun to see.
Yeah, I'll go Sasaki, Scott, and I'm curious to see, because I have my perception of Blake Snell. I'm curious to see him kind of with Dodgers in the the Pryor lab, if you will, and just to watch him on a more regular basis rather than kind of on the one offshoot start that he makes against the Dodgers, or if he happens to be on Sports Center for some reason. So those are my 3.
I considered Snell, but I've also seen him pitch a lot. But I mean, you can't really go wrong with any 3 guys. Like Kirby Yates is going to be really good, and he'll be exciting to see.
Sure.
So yeah.
So are you breaking news here, Blake? The Dodgers have a pretty talented team heading into the 2025 season.
I guess so.
Okay,
that is breaking.
Well, there we go. You heard it straight from Blake. He's the first person to say the Dodgers are going to have some talent on their roster this year.
I haven't made my World Series prediction yet, though. I got it right last year.
You did. Cole says, is this Miggy Rose last year as a player? And if so, do the Dodgers make him a coach? We were discussing kind of the coaching staff earlier and the Dodgers' ability to create new positions. So they theoretically would be able to do one for Miguel Rojas. Do you think this is his last year?
I think he wants to keep playing more, but it might depend on like how his body holds up and how he does throughout the season. If he has another year where it ended like last season, I think he might consider retirement, but it does seem like he wants to play a little bit longer and then go into coaching.
Yeah, I agree. Although I could see a scenario where if the if the Dodgers win the World Series, I could see maybe Miguel Rojas saying, "Okay, like I'll sail off into the sunset, on a real high in that sense." All right, let's see what other questions we have here. Here's a good one. Amanda, what do you guys think of the PECOTA projection for the Dodgers of 104 wins? Is PECOTA usually accurate?
I mean, none of these are like always accurate. It's hard to say usually accurate. Their teams are random and stuff happens in baseball. I would say they're considered one of the better projection systems. I think 104 wins is conservative somewhat, which these projection systems always are, but also like that might be the highest win total they projected for a team in quite some time. So like they're very high on the Dodgers for good reason. And I think it is probably a little conservative. I'd probably have them around 106, 107 maybe.
See, I'm trying to pull up because I have the chart. So so for 2024, PECOTA projected 101 wins. In 2021, it was 103. And that's the highest since 2013 for the Dodgers. So it's it's the third time in the past 5 years that PECOTA has projected the Dodgers to win at least 101 games. In 2021, they were projected for 103. They ended up winning 106. Last year, they were projected for 101, wound up winning 98. 2023 projected for 97, won 100. So yeah, 104 and 58 this year is the projection. I think. What about the bigger thing that stuck out to me with this was the Dodgers were given 20% odds by PECOTA of winning the World Series. And no other team in their model was higher. I think the Braves might have been second at like 9.7%, and then the Yankees, I think, were third at like 9.1%. That shocked me, was that was so high in some sense. But I think I brought this up with Jeff the last time we were sort of discussing, kind of the payroll narratives and things like that. I do understand that baseball has not obviously had a repeat World Series champion since the Yankees won 3 in a row from 98 to 2000. I recognize that, payroll obviously has not guaranteed winning a World Series championship. I do think that the Dodgers pretty easily, the Dodgers, they're almost in a separate group because of how talented this team is. Like, they're not your usual kind of defending World Series champion.
Yeah, I think the thing with the projection, though, it's not counting that no team hasn't repeated in quite a while. It's just going off team talent and stat projections. So the Dodgers, right now, they're at 21.6, and the next closest, I think you said, was the Braves at 8.5. The thing that really stood out to me is the Dodgers were the only team with projected playoff odds over 89%, and they're at 99.2% right now. So, they're very high on this Dodger team for a good reason. And yeah, I mean, I think they are the favorites to win the World Series. They should be. I'm a little surprised it's only 20%. I think it might be due to the Diamondbacks being good. The Mets are competitive. The Braves are competitive. The Phillies could end up winning. There's a lot of good teams in the National League. I think if you saw them in the American League, it'd probably be up 25, 27%, somewhere around there, because the AL's a little bit less talented than the NL right now.
What about, speaking of kind of odds and things like that? DC says, unpopular opinion, I'd be fine with not winning the division and just looking to October. I know that this was something that was debated a lot over the past few years, as the Dodgers were winning the NL West, getting a bye, and then waiting for a team and getting eliminated in the NLDS. But I firmly stand in, you win the division and you get one of the top 2 seeds to avoid the wild card series. If you end up with the best record in baseball during that process, great. If not, fine. But I think you need to be, I think it makes sense to be one of the top 2 teams in the National League to avoid the wild card series, just because it's a shorter series. It's more playoff games where things could go wrong. So why even mess with that scenario?
Yeah, I get it. on one hand, just getting a ticket to the playoffs is all you really need. So I don't necessarily care if they get that first round bye. But also, like, if we look back to last year, if they didn't have the first round bye, they don't have Freddie Freeman in the lineup in the wild card series, and then maybe they end up losing it. Some of their other pitchers might not have been healthy or ready to go. So, like, it is beneficial to have that extra time to get your players healthy and rested. I know it's funny to say that because like last year we were debating, is it helpful? Is it not helpful? Does it cause them to go in a slump? But I think they've shown they can get over it now, and really they just have to play the baseball that they can play. So I'm kind of torn on it. Like, I just want the ticket to the playoffs. I think they're going to easily win the division this year, so it probably doesn't even matter. But yeah, really, you just need a ticket in.
And I think what's changed too over the past few years with roster limits not expanding to 40 anymore in September is there's no chance to really like let off the gas completely because your guy like you only end up expanding. You add one position player and you add one extra pitcher, and that's it. So your regulars still are having to play. Obviously, you can, maybe shorten games for them, have them play half games, give them more off days, things like that. But I mean, it's a little bit different now where like I don't think last year they had to fight for the division, but must have been 2023 or a couple years ago, like when when they set the franchise record in wins, I don't think they were necessarily chasing that mark. I think they just had enough talent on the team and their regulars were having to play that it sort of happened. Go ahead. Did you want to add something?
I was going to say, I think it's really funny that the Padres are only 35% playoff odds on Pacoda, and the Diamondbacks are like 65% or something, 67%. So Padre fans might not like that one.
Yeah. Speaking of kind of the division race that the Dodgers had last year, Russ says, don't you think the postseason goes better if there is a fight for the division and not just coasting the last month? I think there's a happy medium to this. As you mentioned, like I'm sure the Dodgers would have preferred not having to clinch the NL West so late in the year against the Padres. And then as you alluded to, Freddie Freeman spraining his ankle and stuff like that. There's a happy medium. Do you want it to be done by September 1st? Not necessarily. Does it need to be, September 25th type thing? No. If it's the middle of the month, I think you can figure it out. You sort of, again, like there isn't necessarily, maybe mentally you do ease up a little bit, but I still think that, it doesn't need to be as extreme as it was last season.
Yeah.
And of course, that ended up being the year that they go on to win the World Series, ironically. So is it confirmation bias or is it, hey, playing all the way through the end of the season is actually really beneficial?
Yeah, there's also been years where they played till the end and didn't end up winning the World Series. Like, was it the year they beat the Rockies in game 163? They didn't go on to win the World Series. When the Giants won the division, they lost in the NLCS that year. So, like, I don't think there's any real, like, positives or negatives to it. I think it just depends on the team playing good baseball in October, and that's really what it comes down to. We saw, like, in 2017, they lost pretty much every game going into the playoffs in September there, and then they kind of ended up running through the postseason and should have won the World Series that year. So, like, I don't put too much stock into that.
Yeah. All right. We have a few more here, and then we'll get to, we did get some food questions, so we have those marked. Nomo Splitter says, will Tommy Edman be at second base when Pages plays part-time in center field?
I would guess yes, and I could even see a situation where Edman is a starter at second with Pages the starter in center field. Whether they end up doing that or not, or moving them around, remains to be seen. But Dave Roberts said there's things to figure out in center field, which means it probably pushes Tommy Edman to second base if that's the case.
Do you think Tommy Edman is better off if we're just talking second base and shortstop? Do you think he's better off at second base as opposed to shortstop?
I think he's better there. I believe he's won a Gold Glove at second base. I think he's a fine shortstop. I put him in the good shortstop category, but he's probably one of the better defensive second basemen in baseball.
Morgan, I see your comment that we have a Blake music knowledge question that is also marked. We will be getting to that. It's in our queue as well. I'm not sure. Jack Stack is saying, Blake, your X game is on point. Twitter. I was thinking X game, like on ESPN, like the X Games stuff. I was like, Blake, did you put a new I was looking at the background. Like, did you put a new poster up or something? Which, speaking of, you do have a new one, thanks to me, that you have not put on display.
Yeah, it won't be going here. It'll be in my room, but it's a
Okay.
Grogu. I posted on Twitter. Got some nice colors to it, and it's fun. There's the last one there, so like I got lucky there. Yeah.
Yes, yes. You got Blake, you got very I you need to thank me, I think, for getting lucky with that last one. Otherwise, you would not own it and your life I don't think would be complete. Eden wants to know, looking way down the line, Will Smith's path to the Hall of Fame.
Start hitting in the second half of the season. If he does that, he will be a Hall of Famer. And I think it's pretty much that simple because the first half of his season every year he plays at a Hall of Fame level, and then it drops off in the second half, and he's like a league average to below league average hitter pretty much consistently. So find more consistency there and hitting in the second half.
Yeah.
And do that
Eden,
for 10 years.
Eden is on board with your Grogu love there.
I have the picture I can show. I just don't have it up.
Go ahead, because I'm looking for new questions.
Right.
Yes, that is
Grogu.
the poster that I made sure Blake got while he was at Disneyland. Without me, it would not have happened.
Probably not.
Let's see. GI wants to know if we're excited to see the new digs at the stadium. We'll only see some of it, right? The clubhouse we'll see, and if whatever else maybe is going on in like the tunnels and hallways and stuff. But I guess, do we see? No, we don't. Well, the one time we kind of see the weight room is when they do the all access event and we're allowed to sort of walk through there. But other than that, we don't get that far on our normal duties.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what they do. It's been a long construction process for them with a lot going on there, so we see if it's worth it.
And I know that the company line is that they are not worried about it being finished and that it will be done in time. I don't see it, short of these, which it is possible, like short of these crews working 24-hour shifts at some point.
I think the field was supposed to start going on at some point this week or next week, so see from there.
Yeah, we'll see. Call me. I'm skeptical on that. Let's see. We did Amanda's question. Here's one I've been kicking this around as thinking it would be good for kind of a season preview when we get into it. But Laura wants to know which team is the Dodgers' biggest threat?
Themselves?
Yeah, injuries, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any team on paper is even like close to as good enough as they are. Of course, that's on paper, and baseball plays out where there's a lot of randomness to it. But I think if the Dodgers play the game that they can play and stay healthy, like there's no one that's going to beat them. If I had to pick another team, probably a toss-up between the Diamondbacks, Mets, or Braves. I think those teams are all pretty similar talent-wise. I feel like I'd be more scared of the Mets if they had another good starting pitcher. Like their rotation doesn't seem all that great. The Diamondbacks, if they kept Christian Walker, maybe they would be a little more opposing to the Dodgers there, but they did add Corbin Burns, really good pitcher there. So if you have to face Burns and Zach Gallen in a series, like that could be tough for the Dodgers. And the Braves are getting Acuna back and have a really talented team. So probably one of those three.
Yeah, and with that, I was going to follow up to Laura's question, and you sort of ended up answering it. I think have, not that it's like a hot take by any means, but I have shifted to, I think within the NL West specifically, the Diamondbacks are a bigger threat to the Dodgers than the Padres at this point.
Yeah, I don't think the Padres are all that amazing at this point. They've lost players, haven't done anything. They might end up trading some players before the season starts. Yeah. And as much as they don't want to admit it, I think the ownership thing will somewhat affect the team. Like it's going to be questions for the players all year, and that kind of stuff does like end up taking a toll. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So we've answered a ton of baseball questions. We're going to shift gears a little bit. London Voice is asking, is this live? Yes, we are live. We won't, we'll refrain from Kike Hernandez explaining that we are live, but this is a live show right now if you are watching it with us. All right. Like I said, we had some food ones. We do have a music one. So let's see. We could start Eden. Favorite walk-up songs. Freddie's is almost unmatchable, but I also thought Stone warming up to Photograph by Def Leppard was fire.
I do like Stones. Chris Taylor usually has some good ones. A lot of times he goes with Blink-182, so I like that band. And probably one of his. I always thought Yamamoto's was interesting because it kind of sounded like Western vibes to me. So yeah, I don't know. The one I can't stand is Kike's. That drives me crazy every time he comes up. Kika, just over and over.
Well, there's a new Bad Bunny CD came out, so I'm assuming Kike will have a different song this year. Landon Knack's Return of the Mac, I think, is really good just because of kind of the play on his last name. Like, that's funny, and that's also like a classic song. It's a good song in general. Yeah,
Shohei does something with the show. I forget what the actual name of it is, but his show play.
Yeah, I'm blanking on it right now. I think it's an older song. Is it B.O.B. that does it? I can't. Yes, it's a very popular song, and I'm going to kick myself for not.
The Show Goes On by Lupe Fiasco.
Lupe Fiasco. That's right. There we go. Yeah, that's a good one too. Sticking with music in that sense, Morgan wants to know, genuinely curious, since Blake seems not to know any famous artists, does he know who The Weeknd is? He just dropped another banger album.
I do know who The Weeknd is. I've heard, I think, one of his songs.
That is surprising.
I forget what is the name of it. I forget the name of it. It's the more popular one, probably. Blinding Lights, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know any of the other ones that I can tell you.
I will say I'm not a huge The Weeknd fan, but they had, when I was driving to and from FanFest, they were playing his CD basically nonstop, and so hearing some of the songs, it did sound like it is a decent new CD. Here, let's mix in a baseball question with these really quick. Benjamin wants to know, what is Dustin May's status for 2025?
He's supposed to be back in full go for spring training.
Yep. And I think the bigger question will be his role, whether he does make the move to the bullpen that everybody's been trying to push him into for the past at least 2 years, maybe 3. So the rotation is a little bit crowded now. Lieutenant Beaches wants to know, if we were running the Lakers, what would it be? And Blake, you can't answer this one because there would be collusion. You would have them sending all their best players for the Celtics for a bunch of nobodies.
I can try and get a real one going here.
Okay, you could try it. I seriously would have considered trading, if the Lakers were going to trade for Luka Doncic, maybe trade LeBron to the Mavericks, get one of the centers, keep AD, Luka, and then one of the centers from the Mavs. I think could have been interesting.
I'm going to have them go out and get Nick Claxton, get a center. Jackson Hayes, get a rebounder there to pass out to Luka after some rebounds there. And I would say trade LeBron, but I don't think that's realistic. So
probably not.
Yeah, go out of center.
All right, Blake, good job getting a legitimate answer there. BC says Claxton sucks. I mean,
so he's perfect for the Lakers.
That's why Blake said to go. That's why Blake said to go get him.
I had him on a fantasy team like 2 years ago, so that's how I know him.
Aaron Vaughn wants to know if I'm wearing eyeliner. I am not, and I do not. I'm not sure. I don't know if it looks like maybe I am, but no. Sorry to disappoint you if so.
Just need a ring light.
Yeah, maybe. Dodgers Explicit says, we should collab soon. Love your work. Thank you. We appreciate that. Appreciate the super chat. I did see another question in here. Yeah, Morgan wants to know who I can get in touch with to get Carlos Jr. back at the stadium. You and me both, and I think even Scotty is on board with this. He's mentioned back in the day enjoying Carlos Jr. at Dodger Stadium.
Scott wants it back just so he can say he doesn't actually eat it. He just wants it back.
Cordonez says, what are your guys' favorite shows, movies from last year?
Last year?
Yeah, I'm terrible at remembering stuff like this. I mean, I watch Survivor each season. It's kind of tailed off recently. Let's see. What I'm trying to think what my wife and I watch. We watch Only Murders in the Building. I feel like that is also dropped off.
I mean, I saw Sonic on New Year's Day, but it came out in 2024. So does that count?
That counts. It's a 2024 release.
Sonic 3 was good.
Movies was Oppenheimer last? No, that was, I'm way off. 2 years now.
I don't remember. Let me see. 2023.
Yeah.
I think Ahsoka might have been last year, and Skeleton Crew. I like those.
I didn't see any of that. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, Cortez, I apologize.
You're asking the wrong people.
Yeah. We if you ask us about baseball games we saw, we can fill you, we can answer that. But remembering shows from last year unfortunately gets a little dicey.
They all get blended together.
Yeah, and the years obviously, like I wasn't sure when Oppenheimer came out. And all right, let's see. So we have a couple. Cheesecake. What do you think of cheesecake, the dessert, not the commenter?
Cheesecake is the best dessert. I love cheesecake.
Yeah, I don't particularly care for cheesecake, but I've said this before on several of our shows. The s'mores cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory is very good. I like that a lot.
I'm surprised you like that and not like normal cheesecake because you love cheese and you're not like a sweets person.
I know. Yeah,
I'm tracking here.
Yeah, I know. Doesn't make sense, but hey, what can I say? I'm a super. I don't know if you saw me explaining to Jeff. Which, by the way, can I get your opinion? Did you happen
Jeff's
to see
take
Jeff's?
Was terrible. It was absolutely a turkey sandwich with no cheese on it. Like, what are you doing, Jeff?
Exactly.
And I see where he's coming from on the burrito about how sometimes the cheese can blend in, but like it's still better than not having cheese there.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes, definitely. Jeff was way off for that, and I let him know. Well, I almost had to hit end stream as he was trying to justify it.
Every time he says like he's the one with right opinions on food, we can just say, yeah, you're the one who doesn't want cheese on a sandwich. Get out of here.
That's true. That's true. We can now hold that over his head. Speaking of shows and movies, Cole wants to know, anyone see the Fantastic Four movie preview? I saw people kind of tweeting about it. I didn't get a chance to watch it. I am not big on Marvel anymore. I think they have gone into a steep decline since Endgame.
I'm clipping. I'm not big on Marvel. I'm just ending it there.
Yeah. Blake, did you watch the Fantastic Four movie preview? You're a big movie guy. You're what is it? The A-list on AMC?
I do have it. I haven't gone to a movie in a while. I was thinking of seeing Mufasa tonight, and then heard Anthony wasn't around, so I canceled my movie. So Anthony owes me a Mufasa coverage trip there. But yeah, I have not seen that.
Okay. Here, Aaron wants to know, why are you a Celtics fan, Boston Blake?
For the fun of it, because I don't watch basketball and it riles people up a bit, so it's funny to go with it.
Yeah. All right. We're going to end with two more here that are food related. Again, if we'll answer a couple more if you guys want to throw them in, baseball or not, just start it with question in all caps. Otherwise, I think these will be the last two. Well, actually here, not a question, but a comment. Aaron Vaughn says, Jeff recommended animal style fries with no cheese. I tried it. I want to yell at Jeff now. I tried saying removing the cheese from the French fries is the worst thing. Like, that's not the topping that you should be taking off of fries. If like in this set, in any setting, really, leave the cheese.
Yeah, he's been on a run of some bad takes here.
Well, Aaron, Jeff will be back with me on Sunday night. In the meantime, we can text him and let him know that you are very angry with him. But if you are able to join us on Sunday, that's when Jeff will be back on. So you can come yell at him yourself. And I'll be sure, if he doesn't see it, I'll be sure to flag it and throw it up. Speaking of cheese, this is going to be my answer. Nomo Splitter wants to know the most important nachos topping. I mean, it's cheese and more cheese to me.
I'm going with guacamole.
So are you, is this with like nacho cheese or melted cheese and then the guacamole?
Either. I mean,
okay.
It's like it.
I'm not sure how well it would mix with like the nacho cheese type thing, but it's in all seriousness, I do. Yeah, Lieutenant Beaches. I think I would do if I need to add some. I mean, I'm fine with just straight cheese. Like I like, you guys know, just that. But if I needed to add something else, I would say sour cream is a good addition. Rourke Stevens is saying your baseball question was skipped. I didn't see it. Do you want to try asking it again, and we will get to it? I'm scrolling up here.
You might have asked about a recap of spring training, like which players reported. Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, if a recap, I apologize. We don't want to bore the people that happen to be with us. Quick summary: Blake Snell, Bobby Miller, Glasnow, I think had, or no, not Glasnow. Pajes, I think, had been out there. Gratterall, I think, was there. Do you remember who else we named?
You say Otani.
Otani, yes, Otani is definitely there. So yeah, those are the guys. You could if you want to, once we're done here, rewinding will be the easiest thing to do for that kind of fuller discussion. Excuse me. All right, a couple more here. And look, again, like we are happy to answer baseball questions, but at this point, we are getting a lot of just food specific questions. So our apologies for people who want us to stick to sports, but we do have interest.
You guys dictate the show. We're just answering the questions.
Yes. Let's see. Eden, here's a baseball one for everybody. Have we forgotten about Joe Kelly?
No, but there's a reason we haven't mentioned him.
Yes. There we go.
He could come back when the Dodgers do their 60-day stuff. I think he would get a minor league deal, but he could be like Daniel Hudson last year, where it's like a minor league deal with he might be on the opening day roster type thing. But
well, how are they going to fit? How are they going to fit him though? We just we kind of went down the list. Like he's not better than any of those people.
Yeah, but better doesn't necessarily mean like someone's not going to get hurt.
True. Fair
These
enough.
things work themselves out.
Fair enough. All right. Hawaiian Kira, since she says, what was your favorite regular season game of 2024?
A good one. There's a lot that happened last year. Probably Otani getting a 3-homer game to reach the 50-50 mark.
That's what I was going to pick.
Probably the most memorable one.
Yeah, that's what I was going to pick.
Or Otani's walk-off Grand Slam one. I think it was going to be that.
Blake, stop taking my answers. That's going to be the one that I also went. Let's see. All right, let's try to go away from Otani. I mean, I think you could, like, when they clinched the NL West against the Padres, because that was a big series. It was obviously late in the year. The stakes were high. And so to clinch the NL West and against the Padres, I think was fun. Yeah, I'd have to. I mean, it's hard for me also on a personal level, just because I missed a few months there. I was kind of in and out of it. Yeah. So Hawaiian Kira, those are our answers for now. Maybe we'll have
the first Korea game was fun, where they won.
Yeah. A little bit different experience for you than some of us. But yes, I get your point. All right, so we do have some more sports questions. So you guys here looking for baseball stuff, you'll be happy. Laura wants to know, what was the biggest news we heard at Dodger Fest?
From players? Good question. I don't think we heard anything like groundbreaking there. Anything too big? Unless I'm mistaken. Me and Matt were switching on and off of doing the interview, so like we each got part of it. I don't remember anything like too crazy.
Yeah, nothing significant. I mean, it wasn't necessarily news, but Otani referred to his shoulder surgery as complicated. But he also said like he is on track with things. Like nobody seems concerned about anything. Actually, here, I'll go with Freddie Freeman discussing his ankle and like tearing the ligaments and the tendons and stuff, and how severe that ended up being. But fortunately, by the time he went to have the surgery, they had healed enough, and so they didn't need to be repaired. It was just kind of shaving down some bone spurs and things like that. So the surgery could have been a lot more significant than it ended up being. We hadn't heard that. I guess if you want in that same boat, like Miguel Rojas had an infection, unfortunately, after his hernia surgery that delayed him for a couple weeks. But yeah, other than that, I mean,
the big news we heard might have been that the door's not shut on Kike.
Yeah, I guess that. Otani did. I know it was in his on-stage interview that we do have up on our YouTube channel. He did reveal and or confirm that he was evacuated because of the fires, which I know it's not entirely clear where he's living. I think there's sort of connect some dots here, but yeah, maybe that. I mean, just it was a scary thing, obviously, for the city, and as much as, these athletes and players are viewed in a different stratosphere at the end of the day, they also are susceptible to a lot of things that, the normal citizen is as well. But yeah, it wasn't a huge sort of newsy Dodger Fest. I think if anything, the news was that it seemed unfortunate that a lot of fans didn't have the greatest experience with it. I know there are obviously challenges with it being in the parking lot this year. But yeah.
I think if you ask Scott this question, he'd say finding out Landon Knack is also a Titans fan with him.
Good point.
They can be in their misery together watching the Titans, and I can join in watching the Patriots.
Yeah. Blake, you'll have to answer this one. Morgan wants to know favorite food spots in the Valley. I need more than just Vasse representing the Great 1-8.
This one came to my mind just because I'm probably going there like next week for my mom's birthday. Salsa and Beer. It's a good Mexican restaurant. There's a lot of good food spots around here. So yeah, that's the one I'm going with. Really good pizza, LA Lasagna, and Jerry's Pizzeria. Like both of those a lot.
Also, go ahead.
Melodies is good. Someone said that. My parents love Brent's Deli. I'm not a huge deli person, so but it's popular.
I have big breaking news. I was reminded by my wife that we did see Fly Me to the Moon last year with Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson. That was good. It was funny. It was entertaining. I did enjoy that movie. So thank you. Thank you to her for helping me out with that. All right. Well, we are getting a bunch of questions here at the end. Let's see. We did this one. Blake, did you see Wicked?
I did see Wicked.
Heidi wants to know. Did people sing? Did you go to the one where they could sing in the theater?
I did not go to that one.
Okay. Are you going to do that on the second watch so that you wanted to see it first so you could learn all the lyrics and then sing with everybody the second time?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Let's see. Here's a good one. Baseball one. I'm trying to mix in some baseball stuff here. Cole wants to know, what is your best guess for Dave Roberts' contract, years and money?
What's Craig Counsell's? Is he $8 million?
I forget if it's 8 or 8.5. But it's up there.
5 years, $40 million. So I'm gonna go. Dave is getting $550 million.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's part of the reason why it hasn't happened yet. I think there might be some, just my hunch, some finagling on what the terms are going to end up being. Not that I think the Dodgers are going to penny pinch by any means, but I think Dave Roberts does certainly have a strong case of he needs to be the highest paid manager in baseball by a pretty decent margin. October, it's October from here on. Since as of last, it ended late October, right? It didn't get into November.
It ended on Halloween, I believe.
So as of Halloween, starting then from there,
it ended on the 30th, and I flew back on Halloween.
Okay, so as of October 30th of last year, it is October from that point forward. All right, let's get to a few more here. We'll try to answer these kind of quickly. Aaron wants to know if you've seen Half Baked.
I've never even heard of it.
There we go. I haven't seen it either. I will say I have heard of it. I have not seen it though. Esteban says best movie theater candy.
Put M&Ms in your popcorn and thank me later.
So I haven't done M&Ms. I think I've done Skittles before, and that was pretty good.
In the popcorn?
Yeah.
I don't know about that one.
In terms of candy, it's hard to say. Like, just don't buy candy at the movie theater. Buy it beforehand and take it in with you instead of.
Well, you can do it. Like, it's just asking.
Oh,
what
okay.
Candy are you getting?
Got it. I feel like my wife. Like, I do like the water. I think they're watermelon Sour Patch Kids. Those are good. Red Vines. Amanda Z saying Red Vines. Those are also good too.
I like Red Vines.
Yeah. All right. Let's see.
Now you're getting hooked a bit here.
GI wants to know pizza, fold or not to fold?
Fold and dipped in ranch.
Not a huge folder. I do agree with dipping in ranch. I will fold it if I need to, but it's not something that I way to go. See, Blake, you're just putting up one side. You need to support. I'm getting support here. You're not telling the people the full story.
Okay.
All right. We have a few more here, and then I think we'll close it out. Another one from Cole. Top 3 breakfast cereals.
A good one. Honey Nut Cheerios are probably up there. I don't have cereal a ton. I like Captain Crunch. Um, forget the name of the. I think it's on your list. One of them. Honey Bunches of Oats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one with the banana.
What about frosted mini wheats?
They're kind of boring. I feel like
Okay. Apple Jacks.
not really.
Apple Jacks with bananas is sliced up is pretty good. I think those are my three. Cinnamon Toast Crunch is also good. I have to be in the mood for that though.
Do you like Lucky Charms?
I do like Lucky Charms, but it's not one I get regularly. And when I do that, like I do try to get like a healthier one. Yeah, if Iris is saying Frosted Flakes, there I won't do the full great, but yes, they are great. Yeah, those are. It's hard for me. I don't know if I could pick just three. Definitely, I do have a top two. Like if I needed a, I don't know what my final third one would be, but I definitely am taking Honey Bunches of Oats and Frosted Mini Wheats. Those are absolutely in my top three. And then the third spot is a toss up. It's a lot of kind of just what I'm in the mood for. All right, back to sports. BC wants us to rank our favorite teams. Oh, I initially read this as sports teams, but maybe that's what he means, and not playing team sports. Okay.
You want to go first or me?
I can go first. My first one, honestly, is probably USC football. Then I think it's the Dodgers. Then Lakers. And I think that's all. That's pretty much it for me.
Okay, so for me, like before I started covering the Dodgers were number one. I think now they've fallen into like two because I'm there so much, and like sometimes when I just want to relax, I need a break from the Dodgers in baseball. So I'm putting the Patriots number one for me, and then the Dodgers two, and then the Kings three. But I'm protesting the Kings right now because I can't stand their front office and they all need to be fired and they're incompetent. So I am not watching the Kings at this moment. So right now it's just Dodgers and Patriots.
Okay, there we go. And the Celtics are just a given, so he didn't even name them. That's just he's born into that. So of course they're just there. All right, I think our last one will be from Hawaiian Kira. She wants to know if any Dodger heads will be in Tokyo. And yes, our plan is to send Blake. But big breaking news, he's not going to be going to Disney Sea, which I didn't really understand.
Yeah, I got tickets for Disneyland Tokyo. I heard, so when I bought the tickets, I heard from someone that you should go to Disneyland Tokyo and not Disney Sea. And then another Dodger media member was telling me that I should go to Disney Sea and check it out and not Disney Tokyo. So I don't know. I have the ticket for Disneyland Tokyo, and they were like $50 to $70 for depending on the day, which is crazy because here it's like 170.
Is it? I hadn't heard that Disney charges a lot to do things here. That's new to me.
Well, to be fair, you gotta tell the chat how excited you are to go to Disneyland again.
That is true. Yeah, the different all that food looked pretty good. And Blake, you're getting a lot of you need to go to Disney Sea. Can you transfer your tickets?
I don't know, but maybe I just end up getting the other one too and just kind of go to both, check them out.
Yeah, players saying it's only like $50 for Disney Sea.
Yeah, maybe I'll do both.
Speaking of going to Tokyo, have you learned any Japanese?
A little. I started. I got Duolingo, so I've been like starting to try and like introduce myself, thank people, order a little food here and there. So working on it. The writing system is very confusing and challenging, but I know something so far.
Okay. Last question here, I think, from Nomo, who wants to know, will Blake try another unique Japanese snack this year and give us a review?
I'll try some snacks. I'm going to make sure I'm not trying squid or octopus or anything like that. So, yeah.
Okay. And yeah, we'll do it on a live show again. He stumbled into it being octopus, so I don't know if, as he said, like we'll get something as good as that, but hopefully still some entertaining stuff. All right, Well, I think that's going to do it. I'm glad. Thank you, everybody who was with us tonight. Blake and I came into this show wanting to answer as many questions as we possibly could. Hopefully, we're able to get to yours, both baseball, movies. Fun little twist tonight. We, as our regulars know, we enjoy sort of expanding beyond baseball because there is certainly, it's a little bit slower now, but there's plenty of time to discuss all that stuff. And we're just getting started, as I mentioned, with pitchers and catchers reporting for the start of spring training next week. Position players not far behind them, and then Blake's trip to Tokyo right after that. So we're going to be hitting the ground running here pretty soon. As I mentioned, if you are on YouTube, please do us a favor and hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell so you get alerted whenever we do these live shows, whenever we put up other content throughout the week. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review us there. Again, that is Blake. I'm Matthew. Our plan is to be back here Thursday night. That should be Scott and Blake. And then I'll be back with you guys again on Sunday with Jeff. We'll see you next time.